Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Town Council meeting for February 18th. If you will please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, well, tonight is a special night. We are going to do our U Rock Award presentations, and we have a number of folks in our community who were nominated for a U Rock Award. And for those who don't know, every quarter or so, we recognize folks in the community for their outstanding contributions. It could be residents, it could be business owners, it can be people who work for the town, and these recommendations come in from the public, and I'm super excited. So we're gonna get started with that next. So the first U Rock Awards that we have this evening is Chuck coming in for Christine? Do you know?
I heard that Ron maybe.
Or Ron is coming? Okay. Is he?
I don't see him here yet.
He's not here yet. Okay, so we're gonna hold off on that. So we're gonna start with our first one, who is for John Murphy, and I'm gonna have John Murphy, who works for our town, to please come up. And for those of you who don't know John, we have affectionately named him over the course of the past 6 years, IT John. And I don't know if you know that. Okay, so what happened was when we first took office 6 years ago, there were so many Johns that we were talking to, and then to make it hard for us, because we were just getting to know people, they were, of course, all John M., right? And so it just became impossible in our minds who we were talking about, and so John affectionately became IT John. But John became so much more to us as a community and as an administration, because he really is the person who keeps us connected. He's the one who's out there doing the messaging, and he's the one with the electric signs, and he's the one recording all of the wonderful activities that happen in our community center and in our senior center. But he's also very important because he helps us stay in touch with the public. During COVID, he helped us create a video series called the Mayor Spotlight. He also helps to keep us connected through a municipal app, which he spent almost a year researching and helping us to launch, which was a one-of-a-kind thing, and not a lot of municipalities have this form of technology or way of communicating with the public. So John really is a integral part of our community, and he really helps us as an administration do what we have to do and be able to reach you in the community. So we're so tremendously grateful to you, John, and we think you rock. So we have this special little gift for you.
And an actual rock.
And we want to grab your picture with the whole group. Is that okay? All right, good. So Christine Flynn from the Board of Education is retiring, and we are going to recognize her at some point. Okay. Our next recipient is John Vassell. So I'm not sure if John is here yet. Is he? He is here. I know that he is reluctant to come here. So we're very appreciative. But John does so much for the community, and John's the kind of guy, John owns JV3, for those of you who don't know, a business here in Rocky Hill. He does a lot of wonderful things, but John is always the person that when we're doing events, and in particular the Rocky Hill Education Foundation, who nominated you for this award, John is the go-to guy. And when we pick up the phone, John is just, what do you need? Doesn't even ask what it is, when it is, what do you need? And he's always there. And he's always there with a crew. And he also, for a Memorial Day parade, he lends us these massive trucks that he has, and we decorate them as floats. And truth be told, John and his son and his employees are the ones who are doing all of the decorating and getting all of the supplies and just making our Memorial Day parade really what it is. And it wouldn't be what it is without you, John, seriously. So you rock, and we're so grateful for you. And on behalf of the town, we want to recognize you with a certificate. Don't leave because we want to get your photo. Don't leave because we want to grab your photo. Okay, thank you. Okay. Thank you. So our next person who was nominated is Maria Librio. Maria Librio, I hope that you recognize her. If you don't, I'll just give you a little bit of background. Maria also is from a local business in town, Rose Hill Memorial Park. Maria is really such an outstanding citizen because she's so actively involved in the community, particularly all of the functions that we do. Maria just doesn't get involved as a volunteer. She's typically one who's organizing and bringing the ideas to us. She has built this following of folks who are so eager to bring programming that focuses on inclusivity. And we've just had two fabulous programs down at the community center that specifically focused on children with special needs, children with autism, and for the very first time, we're bringing those families out and we're engaging them into fun activities, and it's such a wonderful thing to see. And it really is the result of Maria Librio and her generosity and her mindset. And so thank you, Maria. You rock. Hey, don't leave because we're going to grab your photo. Okay? Thank you. There's 4 of these. Yeah. So I'm going to call up a gentleman named Yad V. Mantan. Mantan? Yeah, no. I'm going to call up a young woman. Excuse me. Okay. Let's get organized here. Okay. And one more. Okay. Wonderful. Okay, and did everybody come with you? And your mentor? Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay, I'm going to introduce you to Vishal. Okay, so turn around so they can see you. So this extraordinary person came to us, reached out to us, because he is a mentor to these 4 students who attend school at GMS. And they participate in this program completely voluntarily called You Be the Chemist. It's a challenge. It's a national challenge. And through their mentor, completely voluntary, they had competed last year, a small team did. This year, we have this team who is competing, representing not just Rocky Hill, but the state of Connecticut. They are representing their age group. And their challenge this year is to find something that is happening in the environment that is creating an issue that needs a sustainable solution. And so they are mitigating a harm in community. Well, this is really right up our alley. And when we heard about it, we got together. We invited Ed Ciccarello from town, who is very much interested in this topic. We invited Kim Ritchie to sit with us. And these students really were so impressive. And they are going to go out and look at some of the challenges that we have, whether it's trash, recycling, flooding. They had so many very good ideas. We're so excited to work with them. We're so excited to see where they go with this, and we wanted to recognize you and thank you for what you're doing, because you are going above and beyond to open up a whole new world for these young ladies. And to see young ladies in STEM is really what it's all about, right? And so for you four, we're very proud of you, because you are looking outside of your classroom, right? And you're not just confined to what you're learning in your books and in your classroom or what you may see on TV or in the movies. You're going above and beyond to learn, right? And to open up your minds and to solve a problem that we literally have in town. So we thank you for that. It's a big deal. And so we want to say that you all rock, and we want to give you a little something. Okay? All right. So we have Yashika. Thank you. 1 second, don't leave. We have Reedhi. Yes, you're welcome. And I'm going to give you a little something else. All right, you're going to have to help me. Jashree. Are you sure, Jashree? Yeah. Okay, because I've been practicing all day. Okay, all right. And then Yadvi. Okay, we're going to give you a little rock. Thank you. You're welcome. We're so proud of you. Keep up the great work.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for
Thank
everything.
you very much.
Okay.
And it's really good, big motivation for them.
Good,
Thank you
good,
very
good.
much.
Yes. Okay. This one is for Chief Brian Klett and the Rocky Hill Police Department, who were nominated by a woman, excuse me, by the name of Grace, down at the senior center, and she and her friends down there were just so happy to nominate you guys and gals, because she said that you're constantly checking in and making them feel good and comfortable, and they like to see you and your force in the community, but more of that community policing, which you are so well known for. And so they wrote in and they nominated all of you. And so we wanted to just say thank you for that. And on behalf of them, this is for you. Okay, this one is for Nancy Harlow. So, Nancy, you were nominated by a woman by the name of Joyce. Nancy is one of the coffee bar volunteers, and the folks downstairs at the senior center say you always have a smile on your face. They are always so welcoming. I know for myself, that's always going to grab a decaf. I appreciate it. And it's folks like you that really make the center thrive and a really good place to be. And you create that environment because yours is one of the first faces that people see and they engage with and they interact with. And so on behalf of the town, we just want to say you rock and thank you for what you do to make our community better. And this is for you. And we have one more for a woman by the name of Grace Durkin, who isn't able to be here this evening, so we will send that home to her. But Grace was nominated by a woman by the name of Joan, because Grace has created over 70 friendship bracelets down at the Rocky Hill Senior Center, and she is also known as someone down there who is really just making a world of difference, making a lot of positivity come for folks who are trying to get out and socialize. So we want to recognize her. Thank you, Grace. And then I just want to tell you very quickly about another woman who we recognized earlier today by the name of Gina Marie Davies. So Gina Marie had this incredible program this morning. I don't know if any of you got to see it, but she had applied to NASA. Yeah, so students who participate in some of the library programming would be able to ask questions of astronauts aboard the International Space Station, and if chosen, the astronauts would answer those questions. Well, she had to go through this very, very rigorous process. And she had to work directly with NASA. She had to go and learn all about what this programming was and how to ask the questions and how to have a program. And long story short, she is one of very, very, very few people and programs in the United States who were chosen to participate with the NASA astronauts. So our students were able to submit questions. They were videotaped, and those questions were given to 2 astronauts. And we actually saw those astronauts live today as they were orbiting the Earth. I mean, it was mind-blowing, right, when you think about it, because they're up on this spacecraft, the International Space Station, and they are literally answering questions from our students. It was so impressive and so exciting, and Gina Marie, it really was all of her doing to make that happen. And so today we recognized her, and I just want to give a shout out. And then the last shout out before I go take my seat. We have somebody in the audience who we have to recognize, and that is our Lieutenant Gutzfeld. He's right here. I'm going to just call him up and embarrass him for 1 second. So, Lieutenant Gutzfeld, I know that you have probably seen him around town. He's just a staple in our community, and we treasure him, and he is now retiring, and he is moving on to a new chapter in his life. But I just want you to know how much we appreciate your service, and you absolutely do rock. And so thank you for everything, and please join me in thanking Lieutenant Gutzfeld. Thank you, Laura. All right, I'm going to get back to duties now, and we will continue our meeting. Oh, quick photo. Let's do a really, really, really quick photo. Could everyone just run up real quick up here, and we'll do a quick photo. Okay. Do I have a phone?
Jamie's gonna take it too. Good.
All right, everyone ready?
Ready.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. One more time. Hold it. Perfect.
Thank you. I don't think Mark knows John Murphy. He'll be out of it. After public comment, I'll tell you that. And Lieutenant, whatever.
Okay, now we're going to move into public comment. This portion of the meeting is specifically set aside for comments from the public who are asked to limit their comments to 2 minutes. Any person interested in providing public comment via email should email publicmeetings@rockyhillct.gov prior to 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting to have their public comment read into the record. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Okay, hearing none, we're going to, oh, no, we have one.
Okay, thank you for having me, Mayor. Mike Garahy, 180 Pheasant Drive, also serving as fire chief and member of the fire department for the past 45 years. To say I'm disappointed tonight is an understatement. The fire department training ground contract dragged out with no resolution until tonight when the Public Safety Committee voted to stop future negotiations with Mission CIT. Despite requests, we were not afforded a special meeting, and only twice was the topic moved to the front of the agenda. And as I understand it, we were not afforded that special meeting because of time constraints. We all have the schedules. We're all busy. Our schedules are just as full as anybody else's, but we also make time to keep this town safe by responding to 825 calls a year. That one stung. Meeting after meeting, we would seem to spend time rehashing topics previously concluded, and as it was said tonight, nickel and diming. This stalled quality and realistic training for our membership and essential training for the 20 new recruits we put on. Prior to bringing the contract to the council, it was vetted by myself, the town manager, the town attorney, our insurance carrier, and our insurance carrier's attorney. We made the necessary recommendations based on the manager, the attorney, the carriers, etc. We felt it was a win-win for the town. We came forward in good faith each meeting to try to provide the necessary information to bring this to a resolution. But I got to tell you, the speed bumps we encountered felt very personal and at times felt hostile. The Public Safety Committee recently researched the training ground and publicly thanked people. And in the spirit of transparency, which was mentioned tonight, at no time was the fire chief included in this history research. Let that sink in for a minute and look at it from our standpoint. The fire department was not consulted during the research on the fire department's training ground. Okay? If you're looking to send a message, honestly, message received loud and clear on that one. So to be truthful, many department members have spent countless hours bettering that site, but they weren't mentioned, and quite frankly, that's done some damage. As part of tonight's public safety report, I discussed how that in financial terms, the way we operate in our operating model with the fire department costs the town about 20% of what a career fire department would cost the town. I also talked about how our recruitment efforts benefited the town by allowing us to hold off the notion of a career staff with both arms stretched out. And since training is at the crux of retention, tonight's developments have taken one arm away and weakened the other one. Needless to say, this damage is going to be felt for quite some time. Now, I understand that there may be a chance to salvage the program, and I respectfully request that the council take whatever means necessary to revive and give this another shot. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's nobody else. I have a couple of amendments, Madam Mayor, for our agenda this evening, if I may make. The first of which is to add, this would become item A under new business, and we'd move the other two items down one peg. This would be for our Assessor Stuart Topliff to perform a review, to rather have a review of the 24 grand list as a presentation for us tonight.
Is there a motion?
Or that was
Oh,
a
that-
motion.
Motion.
Okay.
Second. Second, yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay. And secondly, a motion to amend the agenda to go into executive session. This would be after the town manager's report. I'd move to amend the agenda to include an executive session item to discuss evaluation criteria for the town manager in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes, Section 1-206A, with the Director of Human Resources and Legal Compliance.
Second the motion.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, aye. Good, okay.
I think, right?
Yeah. Moving on to appointments and resignations, we have an Affordable Housing Commission appointment. I'm asking, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's on the agenda.
Yeah, yes, not from our side.
Okay, no,
From our
not from
side.
you either?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know why that's there?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a memo in your packet from me. The Affordable Housing Committee is down one member due to the passing of Rebecca Hoyt, a former resident of the Housing Authority. There is another applicant that had applied for consideration as one of the 10 original applicants for membership to the committee. Her name is Dea Shadowfox, who is also a resident of the Housing Authority. So as such, Kim Ritchie is recommending the appointment of Ms. Shadow Fox to fill Ms. Hoyt's term. So I concur with Kim Ritchie's recommendation as being due to the fact that she is one of the original applicants who had applied at the very start of this commission.
I don't have a problem with that. I just don't know who is making this appointment, right?
No, it has to be if I may, I think when we originally looked at the list, I think this person was part of the list, and it should always come from the town, right? The recommendation, not from the caucuses, right, for this position.
So it would come from me.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to clarify for the mayor.
All right, I recommend
Yeah.
that Ms. Daya Shadow Fox be appointed to the Affordable Housing Commission or subcommittee to replace the term of Rebecca Hoyt.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll accept that appointment. Okay. Moving on to the approval of the minutes, Town Council meeting February 3rd, 2025.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the town council meeting minutes from the February 3rd, 2025 meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, aye. Moving on to subcommittee reports, Finance.
Yeah, Finance met last week. One of the primary parts of our meeting was a grand list update from our town assessor, who's going to be here to do a presentation tonight, so I'm not going to steal his thunder with what he told us, so I'll let him give all the details there. There's a couple of items on our agenda under new business. Trash collection contract extension with Trash Away. This is regarding the removal of trash from each person's household. It's not from trash to Murphy Road. So this is just the pickup of garbage and recycling from each person's house. So it's a contract extension there. And the second item is a lease renewal for with regards to Rock Hill Community Farm for the 3 farmers that lease property on that parcel of land. So, well, that'll be up for vote this evening. Other than that, we just did the regular monthly updates. Aside from what Assessor Topliff's going to talk about, pretty much everything is on schedule as far as collections. There are some unfunded state mandates that we're going to have to talk about when budget time comes, that is going to put a little bit of an extra hole into things that we weren't planning. There's a $221,000 hole regarding municipal revenue sharing and grants that we're supposed to receive that we're not going to receive. There's a change in car tax valuation, which again, our assessor will get into, that will reduce the amount of property taxes the town can collect on motor vehicles. And then there's also going to be, as I think we've talked about, additional funding costs related with early voting that we may or may not get reimbursed from the state from where we thought we were. So those are things we'll have to take into account, amongst others, when budget time comes. Our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, March 13th at 6 p.m.
All right, thank you. Government operations.
Me again. Government operations met earlier today. We have some community development grant project updates. I won't get into all of them. There are a whole slew of them. You can watch our meeting on YouTube if you want to get the details, but just a few of the highlights. The Century Hills sidewalk projects, phases 1 and 2. Phase 1 is out to bid, and design is being worked on as well for those projects. We're working with the state on the sidewalk project for Elm Street. There are some challenges with space for right-of-ways. This is the walkway that's going to go, I think, from Elm Street down toward the river area. There's a shared grant with the town of Weathersfield for sidewalks. This is basically from Parsonage down up to Town Line Road. It's in the study phase now. The majority of that grant goes to Weathersfield, but there's a small portion of Rock Hill that we will use for that project. There's a project for the Cedar Hollow drainage improvements that are needed, and I think we're currently waiting for permission from the property owners in order to accomplish that. And there's a few other things, but I won't get into all the details. Again, you can watch the more of that on the YouTube video from this evening. We received an update on 2025 STEEP grant with regards to highway garage fuel tanks. Those are currently underground, and there's up to $1 million of available funding. Our tanks were installed in 1999, and their normal lifespan would end in 2029. The premise here would be to get the tanks above ground and covered instead of being below ground. Current working on a site plan. The cost estimate for this project is somewhere around $700,000. The state, as part of the grant, would like towns to match up to 20%. We do have some funds in our capital improvements area from our budget to use. I don't know if we would get to 20%, maybe we'd try to get to 10% or so, and hopefully that would suffice as far as for us to get the grant to do that project. With regards to facilities, I know it's come up at a prior meeting about the fire companies and ambulance key fobs. This was originally on a 5-year plan slate for the 2027-28 budget year to be done, but Phil Sears moved it up to the 25-26 budget to do. Key system for the 3 buildings where the firehouses and ambulances are stored. The current locks are obsolete. We can't get parts for them anymore. They're installed in the late 80s, 90s. The cost, we think, will be about $70,000. It's in our original CIP plan, so budget-wise, we should be okay as far as that goes. Highway garage, recently OSHA, we had OSHA visit. We invited OSHA to do a visit. No major issues were uncovered, which is good. There is one railing that needs to be brought to code, but not a big deal. Also, the Rock Hill Police Department also had, Rock Hill Fire Department also had OSHA. The records were spot on. Just some very minor maintenance items had to be done as a result of that. So good job by all on that front. And lastly, the RLE update. The Firehouse 2 rooftop unit replacement was completed in January, and the Rock Hill Police Department chiller is about 80% done. Our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, March 17th at 5 p.m. via Zoom.
Thank you. Public safety.
Yeah, public safety did meet this evening at 5:30, and we have the presentation up there. If you can go into the full slide mode, I guess. Yeah, thank you. So 68 incidents in January, in line with prior years for this period of time. As Councilor Levine mentioned, there was a OSHA walkthrough of Station 3 and on January 22nd. And overall, the inspection went very well, and with very minor, things that needed to be corrected, and they were. And so it was a successful inspection, and a job well done, like Councilor Levine said. So moving on to the next report. For PD, the call response, 2,282 for service. Again, early in the year, but we always track with prior years, and for the same time of the year, with the data which is provided in the details that Chief Klett provides as a compendium to like this executive summary, and everything seems to be in line. One thing I wanted to call out was that we do have some package thefts reported in the area of Borders Avenue, and Chief, mentioned that, and I guess it happens a lot during the holiday season, I guess, but this is something which Chief pointed out this evening, and I always. This is a miss on my part. I tend to go over community engagement bullets, a lot of these meetings, and I just wanted to call that out, that the PD here is not just engaged in obviously policing the town, but also as a community partner, and we do things like car installations, and we are part of community events that take place in this town, and the PD is always a big participant in those events. So again, I just want to underline that because I think a lot of times I'm doing this report and there are other items to call out, and in interest of time, I skip over those community events a lot of times, and I just wanted to give a shout out to our PD, who does a really good job in being engaged in these community events. So moving on to the next slide, we got Rocky Hill Volunteer Ambulance. On this one, from a numbers perspective, no surprises, as I said, as with fire and police. The only thing I wanted to call out is that the fire department has teamed up with Northeast Fire Rescue to assist with staffing and training for the gaps we might have between RHVA and Aetna. So that is something which is an operational move, which was reported by the chief tonight, and in her reporting, we also learned that in terms of these gaps, they have been looking at these alternatives which they can leverage, and this partnership with the NEFR is a result of that. So I just want to call that out, in addition to all the numbers, which are pretty much in line with what we see normally at this time of the year. Moving on to the next slide. This is from Aetna, and which is our partner, as I mentioned before. And again, the numbers here pretty much in line with what we see year over year. Again, I want to call out, I have done this before, but it's always good to call this part out, because we worked on this for about a year and a half, and finally we have numbers which are actually generated by Aetna and the RHVA in partnership, and they are coming as a single source of truth, like in terms of like where they are pulled from, and they all connect to each other. So this is a big deal in terms of the collaboration we are having with Aetna for the last year or so, in terms of like having operational visibility and establishing standards in terms of data standards, in terms of like how we want to manage and track our performance. So just a shout out. And finally, I don't have it on this report, but we are also reported from the health district. Sometimes we have reports that come out a little late, close to the meeting time, so I'm not able to put it in this executive summary, but Charlie Brown from the health district also reported that there is a widespread influenza incidents that are out there, and he, like he always does, he asked the public to get the vaccines. It's not too late. That's what he said, and also wash their hands frequently and as much as possible. So, Madam Mayor, that's the report. Thank you.
Land acquisition and farmland preservation.
We haven't met since our last council meeting. Our next meeting is next week, the 25th.
Liaison to the state rep and state senator.
I did not receive any updates from our state representative or our state senator.
Okay. School liaison.
No report tonight. Thank you.
Capital Improvements Committee would be Alan, and he has no report. And Economic Development Subcommittee would be Alan, and he has no report because they don't.
We only meet when there's a request for abatement, so no reason to meet.
Okay. We have nothing on the consent agenda, so that brings us to old business. Discussion, possible action, Mission CIT contract.
To discuss that.
Do we have consent agenda?
No, that's an old version.
That's an old,
There's a new, those got moved to new business.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Yeah, please. If you can go through a summary of the chronological events, and then I can I can join you there. Thank you.
So what is this first?
What I just handed out was a motion passed by the subcommittee, the Public Safety Subcommittee regarding Mission CIT proposal and the revisions to the contract that they recommended.
So this was created in the subcommittee.
This was at the subcommittee, yes.
This was passed by the subcommittee tonight.
Yeah, it's just so formal and typed. I'm just wondering how that happened so quickly. And was this already prepared prior to sub?
Yeah, we
Committee?
prepared it because we had the information already. We wanted to take into account. So yeah, I can go through that if Ray comes back, then I can walk you through the process that was followed. So Ray, I can start and then you can join in, I guess. We started 3 months ago when the town council referred the original contract, which was presented by the town manager to the council. And the council, as a body, wanted public safety to look at the contract and see if it was in the best interest of the town to pass that contract. So we worked for the last 3 months with the town manager and Mission CIT and had several public, meetings, engagements, conversations, a very public negotiation. And we came up last month with some principles. And based on those principles, the town manager crafted an agreement putting those principles in the agreement as tentatively agreed during the public meetings with Mission CIT. Last week, we received an email, the committee received an email from the town manager communicating the position of Mission CIT that they cannot agree to several elements which they had agreed before in public, right here on this podium, in principle, and that was referred to in the email. And that is how we came to know that we came together and then we kind of went back to square one last week. And I would love the town manager here, like actually in the public interest to like actually go through all the disagreements on a high level he can, that Mission CIT backed off on from their agreement verbally in the last meeting. And happy to answer any questions.
Okay, at the last month's Public Safety Committee meeting, discussion took place. There were discussions regarding changes to the revised contracts presented initially and then revised several times. This last meeting, the subcommittee had recommended several changes, which were throughout the document. And that document was emailed to Mission CIT. The first response back I received was last week in the afternoon, I forget what day it was, indicating that they were withdrawing their proposal, indicating that it's been the process is too long and the spirit of the contract is not being followed. I had asked them to at least, why don't you provide me with a list of their recommendations or their changes or their objections, and they did finally. And I have that email, and I can go through that if you'd like me to, as a council. I know you don't have the contract in front of you, but just, I'll try to summarize what those changes were that were recommended from the subcommittee and what they objected to. The first objection was to change, the first objection to the recommended revision by the subcommittee, and actually, I think this town council initially. Their proposal was for a 5-year, for a 10-year contract, and that was changed to 5 years. And then the subcommittee revised that to make this 5-year agreement subject to annual program reviews by the subcommittee and 3-year reviews by the town council. And at each 5-year term, the parties have the option to terminate, giving proper notice that was identified in the original contract. They objected to that, and they would like to see a 10-year term, so unchanged. They wanted to revert back to the original contract. The next change was to the site development and maintenance. The original contract had the town of Rocky Hill Fire Department at its own expense develop and maintain additional training. I'm sorry, no, that's wrong. That is wrong. Mission CIT shall be responsible for the design, placement, and fabrication of any and all grant-funded facilities. That was a proposal by the subcommittee that was added on to the original 4.1, which just said Mission CIT shall, at its own expense, develop, maintain additional training facilities or props on the training ground, subject to the town's prior approval. And then the addition was Mission CIT shall be responsible for the design, placement, and fabrication of any and all facilities. They objected to that added-on language. And then section 4.2 regarding the grant applications that they were willing to write on behalf of the fire department. They thought that was fine. They had an issue with the 10% fee associated with a grant that was not benefiting the town, but that really was not that was kind of a pointless comment, so that was okay. And let's see. Section 5, which deals with permits and licenses, Mission CIT indicated originally that the town would be responsible for any and all permits associated with the conduct of operations on the site. Subcommittee recommended that Mission CIT be responsible for any and all permits and licenses required, and also for any structural alterations, additions or to the structures, and any changes made to the training ground. They objected to that, and they thought the town should be responsible. That too was a fairly minor issue. I think the major issue here is section 12, consideration for the use of the town facilities. Section 12.3 was an issue. 12.3 is new, and it says, beginning July 1st, 2025, Mission CIT shall pay a flat rate use fee of $600 for each use of the training grounds and number 2 firehouse. That was objected to. There were initial discussions regarding a fee for the use of the building and the facilities, electric fee, water fees. We initially looked at what we charge for lease rates, rent rates for the senior center, community center. They had actually come back and did say that I believe they'd be willing to pay $250 a day, or $125 a day for half an hour. So, that was a major issue with them, the $600 fee. And then also, we had a section 12.4 that was inserted regarding the utility fee of $12.95 per hour with a 3% annual escalation. That was objected to. And that is it. Those were the objections. And that subsequent to discussion, this motion was presented.
Happy to answer any questions from a committee perspective. If
I
anyone.
have a couple questions, if I may.
Sure.
In terms of, what the original contract was to maybe the middle point where you thought you had an agreement to current impasse, you mentioned like in section 12.3, this being the largest thing, that did they at some point agree that that 600 flat rate per use was acceptable? And then the email you subsequently received about a week ago, they went back to the 250 per use?
Do you want me to?
Yeah, so the way it was proposed originally was a rate which was in line with the Parks and Rec rates. And those rates were about $140 an hour for non-town business use, right? If I'm correct, Mona, you can correct me, they were around $150 an hour, somewhere there. For a 4-hour use, that's about $600. That's how that number came up. And we discussed that number during the meeting, in the public meeting, and they said they will entertain a flat rate. And that 600 number was based on the Parks and Rec rate of $150, more or less. Exact numbers Mona can find for you, but that's where 600 comes out from.
Yeah, I think we had originally put in for discussion was the $65, which was going to tie to the regular business hours, but I think following conversation, moved to the outside business hour rates on a weekend, which went from a $65 an hour to the $170. So I think the original was 65, then it went to 170 per hour, and I think that's how it went to the 4 times the 170, which was 680.
And again, at some point, that was maybe agreed to and verbally?
I don't think they
No, not by
agreed
Mission
to.
CIT.
Okay. All right, I thought, okay. And then the utilities was discussed, again, not tonight, but the prior meeting, about it being included, and again, under the assumption that that would be accepted, that was pulled back from their contract when they responded to you?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And I assume the same thing for permanent licensing, because I'm just trying to understand if we were close and now we got so far away, it seems. You don't have to answer that, I guess. I'm just, that's my understanding at this point,
The idea, I guess, here is subcommittee made recommendations, and, there was discussion. And then they wanted me to insert the recommendations into the document. I sent it to them, and then the idea was for them to respond back to me. But they hadn't for a while, and then finally they did respond back to me indicating that they want to pull the project. I responded back to them saying, why don't you give the subcommittee and the town council more time? Why don't you give me a list of what you're objecting to? So that list is what I just went over, but it came pretty late.
Which basically brought us back to what the initial proposal was. it sounds like.
Sounds like, it's very close to the first proposal that was presented to the town council.
When the town council decided to send it back to committee.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The only comment I'd probably add to this is, I'm glad through this process, it went to the subcommittee, that it was vetted out. It's unfortunate it took so long with the back and forth, but in my experience, I haven't seen this type of, I mean, there was scrutiny, I know, on both sides. But I guess my question is, it's at the council now. Is this just a formality to understand public safety's decision? Or are we measuring what, Dave, you had a great question about the prior contract to the current contract, the changes. Because if that's the case, I think this is kind of being rushed to the council with all these changes. We haven't really even looked at the original, what Dana normally does with contracts and redlines them and things like that. I'm still on the fence, to be honest with you. I mean, I just.
Just let me jump in. When the contract was originally proposed to the town council, we sent it to the town attorney's office. We sent it to Kerma. They made changes. We made changes according to their changes. I know Councilor Sullivan made a recommendation regarding the term being too long. We made changes there. There were some other recommendations regarding the insurance coverage. We made changes. At that point, it was referred to the subcommittee. It's on the agenda tonight because we were assuming that this proposal would come back with some, we can negotiate some of these items and then send it to the town council for an action, or maybe put it on the agenda for the next meeting for action.
Yeah, so just to add to that, if I may answer your question, like the reason the resolution that we passed states what it states is because we actually went further apart from where we were like last month. So the negotiations, John, which we were having, they were getting closer, and then they basically went back and the mission CIT position to essentially not accept any of the changes in the contract as prepared by the town manager, we could have gone for another 3 months to negotiate that back, which made no sense because it was pretty much the original contract they wanted to go back to. So they rejected all the proposed changes in the contract, really. So that's kind of like the context of where we are now.
So were those changes were they major sticking points that CIT wasn't going to change their minds on? I mean, was it a give or take?
Oh, initially, the first sentence to their email was we withdraw the proposal. It was not in the spirit of the original contract based on these revisions. And I think the major sticking point was probably the fee that was being proposed and possibly the 10-year term.
Okay.
I mean, I'm uncomfortable with the finality of this. I can see that what the latest thing that they came back with, we're not comfortable with at that level. That's fine. Seems to me that you can continue negotiating. And I don't see CIT here saying that they're not going to accept any changes. I mean, at the end of the day, they propose something back, but I mean, that's what I did in my job, and sometimes it takes a long time to get somewhere. And I'm concerned with the finality of this, of that we're not negotiating anymore. I would like to see continued negotiations.
Can I
I
ask,
think-
based on Mimi's question, did they say at the beginning of that email, we withdraw our contract?
Yes, and then Ray asked them
Not
to
sure that
come
we
back.
canceled it as much as they did, or it's a
Well,
shared
no, they came back
responsibility.
to the table. Ray asked them to come back to the table, and they did.
They came back.
Okay.
I'm really struggling with this whole process, to be honest with you, because I'm not comfortable, as much as we want to be transparent, with this drawn-out negotiation process when we have vendors coming to do business in town. I mean, this is the first time I've ever seen, I mean, we talk about vetting, sure, but it's the first time I've really ever seen the town negotiating terms and a vendor negotiating terms at the podium, right? And having to process that and having those conversations with a limited subcommittee, and who then is directing the town manager to create what they believe is the proper and efficient contract for the town. So it's just an odd place to be, and I don't know that I'm articulating that correctly. I don't think this should be the way we conduct business all the time. I don't know if this was unique because it was a public safety matter and it didn't seem that complicated at first, but it did become quite complicated, and I do think it represents a loss on both sides.
If I may, Madam Mayor?
Yeah,
I'd just like to put my committee vote into context. I mean,
thank you.
I stated on the record that I believe my overall sense was that Mission CIT's demands were reasonable. I stated that, in my view, a lot of the demands being imposed by the majority constituted nickel and diming, which is the phrase that I used, and a general, kind of a negative outlook in general, which led to this rather extraordinary process fatigue that I think that we've experienced over a period of months. I further said I thought it was a shame that we got to this point, but if the majority doesn't want to have any further discussions, well, me with my one vote doesn't really matter what I think about it. So, okay, if they don't want to talk, I guess we won't talk, and that's the reason why I voted yes. It could just as easily have been a no vote. That was the context for my vote. But I share, Madam Mayor, your concerns about this. I've never witnessed this type of an excruciating negotiation process playing out in public like this. On what struck me, my initial take on this was this is a good idea. It's being presented by a fire chief who I trust and respect. There were some language concerns that I suggested at the first meeting that were immediately addressed, and I anticipated smooth sailing from that point. I'm rather stunned that instead the ship has been sunk. If there is an appetite to revive these discussions at the committee level, I'm more than open to it.
And I don't mean to dismiss the work of the subcommittee. I think the subcommittee has very good intentions, and it spent a lot of time doing what it believes is in the best interest of the community to create an alternative stream of revenue, which is something that we need at this moment. But it is just a highly unprecedented scenario. And so I guess
I
what
would
I'm
just like to,
getting
mention
at, I'm
something
just
here.
still talking. So
Yeah.
I guess
Can I add something, because it is
I'm
unprecedented?
still
Because
talking. So what I'm saying is that I think procedurally, we had sent this as a town council to the subcommittee, and we trust in that subcommittee to come up with the proper recommendations. They made a recommendation, and I think procedurally that's where we are now. If Mission CIT were to come back of its own volition and say, hey, you know what, maybe we need to reconsider. Maybe these guys are real serious in their positions, right? And that's possible. We know, Mimi, that people get into these funks when they're negotiating. I think that's always plausible, and we can entertain it at that time.
Yeah, so there are two things we need to reconcile here. One is the objection I'm hearing to negotiating for 3 months, but the appetite to negotiate more when we actually came close and then moved back. So I do see a kind of a conflict here. in terms of what people are expressing, it seems a little hypocritical, actually, as a matter of fact, if I may say so, that people are criticizing the committee for doing their work for 3 months, but at the same time, in the same breath, are saying that we need to negotiate more for another 3 months, maybe, or whatever it takes. I think what committee did was get to a set of principles which was acceptable to both parties, and they were agreed upon in a public setting, which is actually a good thing. I'm hearing that negotiating in public is not a good thing for a town government. Is that what I'm hearing? It should be done behind the four walls of the town hall. Is that what I'm hearing here? It makes no sense to me that a town government should not be negotiating in public through a subcommittee. Of course it should. We can take a poll, which I probably will after this conversation, because it's an extraordinary conversation talking about precedents. I have never seen town council in my 6 years here say, hey, what the subcommittee did publicly is not acceptable. We want to negotiate behind the four walls of this town hall. It's pretty extraordinary, in my view, to suggest that's what we should be doing. We should negotiate outside of the view of the public.
Thank you for the gross mischaracterization of my comments. And Councilor Thoreau's.
And if I just, my concern here is the committee didn't like their last proposal. You want to have a proposal here to say we're rejecting that proposal. If they want to come back with something else, we'll listen. I'm fine with that. The finality of this of saying we're done negotiating, that's the problem I have with it.
You can take action, Mimi, because it says at the end, this recommendation to be forwarded to town council for consideration and any necessary further action. If you feel that the subcommittee did not do their job, you can take action right now.
Say that, and again, you're mischaracterizing.
I think we've all said what we've had to say.
I would
So
just like
we're
to
just-
add one
yeah.
thing, because I was on the subcommittee.
Yeah.
I think that we negotiated and we talked for months. At our last meeting, I was the impression that we came together. There was a little hang-up on the amount per a day fee, and they were going to think about it, and the town manager was going to discuss that with them. But I was under the impression that this was going to pass. I thought we had come to an agreement with Mission. I thought everything was going good. I thought we were going to vote tonight at our council tonight and pass. I think Mission offers a lot of good resources for a town, and I think that it's a shame that it didn't come together. But in the motion, it did say at this time. I'm open to them coming back if they want to talk, but it seemed like we were getting further apart after their email.
May
Thank
I comment?
You want to get in the scrap? Come on. I said scrap with an S if you can't hear, because I'm losing my voice.
The town council is the only body that can approve a contract. Can't be approved by the subcommittee, can't be approved by the economic development. A tax abatement cannot be approved by the economic development subcommittee. When they review tax abatements, they make a recommendation, either yay or nay, to the town council. Town council makes a decision. I believe I'm taking this as the same process. They made the subcommittee made a recommendation to end any further negotiation, but it's up to the town council to say yay or nay, just like
Yeah, I agree with Ray.
Just like
Yeah.
a tax abatement when it comes
I agree.
to-
We can all vote on this whenever we want to. Thank you.
that-
It's not
that's-
subcommittee's decision to sign or not sign a contract. It's the town council's. Thank you, Ray.
Well, that's usually how it works, right?
So does anyone, how do you want to proceed then? I'm going to ask you, how would you like
My
to proceed?
idea is, if they want to come back, in good faith and try to work this out
Yeah.
again, I have no problem with that. But it seemed like their last email they gave us, first they withdrew, and then town manager asked for some input. They gave the input, but some of the stuff that they agreed upon at the podium, they now reneged on in their email. So it seemed like we did get further apart, unfortunately.
Okay. All right, thank you. I think we've heard enough. So, Ray, I think, you probably would be the one who's going to have to reach out to them anyway, right? So you can sort of feel them out and and go from there.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone. I spilled my water and ruined the agenda, so I have no idea where we are.
We're doing the new business A.
Okay,
which is the new
Stuart.
one. Stuart, yeah.
Come on up. No. So we have new business A with our assessor, Stuart Topliff, and we are going to go over the 2024 grand list. Always exciting in the world of unfunded mandates.
And it only gets better.
It only gets better, is right.
Stuart, how, are we raising taxes this year? Tell me that first.
Say again?
Nothing. It's okay. I was joking.
Well, it all depends on how you look at it and
Yeah, always.
what our wonderful state legislature is going to do this year. Anyway, I'm here to talk about the grand list from 2024. All right, and here it is. It's $2,895,731,094. All right. 87% of it is real estate. A little over 6% is personal property, and 7% is motor vehicle. That piece of the pie keeps getting smaller. 2017, 18, it was 12%. And I'll get into more. It's down to 7% because the state did a wonderful thing last year in their special session and changed the way we value motor vehicles. All right. The total decrease in the grand list is $40 million. The majority of it coming from the motor vehicle valuation. And the real estate decreases from our tax appeals that we settled. And we had a small increase in personal property because one of our manufacturers didn't file for their property tax exemption this year. So they did not receive it. And I reached out to them on numerous occasions, and I wasn't important enough for them to get back a hold of, because I would have helped them with it, and that's the penalty of not returning my phone call. And here you see last year the breakdown in the pieces of the pie. The motor vehicle section was 7.8% of the grand list, and now as you see it's barely over 7%. And our personal property, because it went up a little bit, gained a little bigger slice of the pie. But as you see, the real estate portion keeps getting bigger. It's a little Pac-Man there. So, but it keeps getting bigger. I believe part of the process here is going to be the state ultimately saying, oh, it'll be no big deal getting rid of motor vehicles because it's a small percentage. But as I've said from as long as I can remember, here in Rocky Hill, based on our property types, we have a disproportionate amount of vehicles as opposed to property owners. So as that piece of pie gets smaller, our real estate taxes will keep going up. So why did it change? All right, Public Act 2446 created 1281-83, and if you're not aware, 1281 is the exemption statute. So if you want to know if something's exempt, read 1281. Here, this is 1283. This is just 1281-83. Then there's A, B, C, D, and there's a whole lot more of them. But anyway, this exempted the primary dwelling or one motor vehicle for veterans who are permanently and totally disabled. They had a public hearing last week to just say that that opinion was wrong, and they're changing the law yet again. But how does that affect you and the people of town of Rocky Hill? There's 18 individuals there are more than 18 individuals, but 18 individuals that we actually applied this exemption to, with a total of almost $3.5 million in assessment. So your real estate grand list went down by $3.5 million because of this one exemption, which in last year's mill rate, it's almost $102,000 that you'll not have based on that exemption. The other individuals that I did not apply the exemption to only owned a motor vehicle, but they owned more than one motor vehicle, and another statute gave them a better benefit, so I applied the better benefit to those veterans. So I don't want them to think that I took the better of the two options for them. Public Act 24-1 in the special session last July, if you saw the news, changed the way we changed 1281-63, which dictates how we value all property in town, whether it's real estate, motor vehicle, personal property. But they updated the section, created 1281-82, and 1280, this statute, we previously valued the vehicles based on clean retail value based on J.D. Powers. And now we use the MSRP less depreciation based on the Price Digest guides. It created a minimum assessment of $500, and it exempted all snowmobiles, all terrain vehicles, residential utility trailers used exclusively for personal uses. That did not exempt the travel trailers and other trailers that are not used for, you know, your Home Depot trailer or something that's just used for going to the recycle center or things like that. Those are now all exempt based on this new statute. And this is how it impacted the residents here in town. Our average car assessment went from $12,600 to $11,500, a change of 8.73%. And it's a savings of $32 to each vehicle that's out there on average. The commercial vehicles went down $2,400 or 7.43%. And they be saving about $70. Your combination, your pickup trucks and things like that went down $3,500, almost 22%. There's savings of $102. And then everything else, that's your utility trailers and your boat trailers, all those things, went down $2,300 or 32% for a $67 savings. So if you owned a boat trailer, if you owned one of those utility trailers, if you owned a all-terrain vehicle, a snowmobile, they are now all exempt. And so you will not see a tax bill on those this coming year. I don't know how to change this slide to make it look different in this setting. But here are the top 10 taxpayers. And as you see, I believe 5 of the 10 are the apartment buildings. And you have Eversource, C&G, you have Cisco Foods and BJ's Warehouse. Compiling the top 10. And I believe that's the end of my presentation. Any questions? The one thing I want to stress about the grand list, I know it went down, but think of it as revaluation as opposed to a real decrease in the grand list. It just shifted from one type of property to the other. So yes, it went down, but the residents are going to see in general, a net decrease in their motor vehicle taxes. And when you have a decrease in one side, you're going to have an increase in the other. the town still needs the same amount of money. So, I mean, that's just,
We can cut our spending, right? Thought about that?
that is part of the equation.
Yeah,
No.
but that's a whole nother subject.
You know,
Yeah,
but,
Yeah.
you know, if just taking this year's budget without, you know, it just, it's just changing the way the people are being taxed. You know, the legislature said, oh, we're gonna save the people money by changing the way how we're gonna value taxes, cars. But in reality, that's not true. You know, it's just shifting where the money comes from and who pays it. That's all the change in the valuation happened this year. Yeah. And then I would just put in the shameless plug about Pilot. If they would just fund Pilot, you know, 169 towns in Connecticut would actually get to reduce their property tax.
But that's not happening in a hurry, so.
I'll argue that every day, but that is absolutely correct.
Stuart, you're showing, our revaluation was 2023, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So knowing what real estate's doing right now, I am a little puzzled that what would be the reason for a $14 million deficit, or I should say change, negative change in values?
Okay, well, 3.5 million was that one exemption,
Okay.
and then the balance was tax appeals. I don't get to change the value of somebody's property unless they improve it or,
So we had we had about $11 million in appeals that we granted?
approximately.
Is that mostly residential or
That's all on the
commercial?
commercial side.
On the commercial side, yeah.
The exemption came from the residential side, the tax appeals were on the commercial side.
And the problem with that, Dave, and I think we have this discussion every year, is that if you own a commercial business, when we're getting, I don't know what month, Stuart, they send out the postcard, but when Stuart's getting ready to do his stuff, all the businesses get this postcard from a law firm, many law firms,
Right.
saying, hey, we have this free service. We'll come in, we'll check, we'll negotiate for you, but your bottom line is you're getting ripped off and let us save you money, right? And no charge to them. And so you have all of these businesses who come, and then we're kind of stuck in this situation where, well, how much are we really losing? And then you have to compare that to how much are we going to spend on litigation, right? And you kind of have to meet in the middle. And I suspect that's what we do, is we try to meet in the middle to save money.
You know, unfortunately, I think my values are fair. Otherwise, I would not
Issue.
put that value on it. Unfortunately, when we hit the court, as the mayor said, they take it on contingency, and so it's no cost to the business owner. They only get a savings if they get a reduction. But when we go to the court, we don't know what the judge is going to do. We never know what the judge is going to do, because you can go to the Superior Court and look at the decisions that the courts make. And since our Judge Levine left the court, it is more chaotic than ever. And at least with Judge Levine, we knew what we were going to get. He was fair. Nobody liked him because he beat both sides up. And now we don't even get to go to court. It's all over Teams.
What we're doing now is, with Stuart and Mona and myself are sitting down and trying to avoid all these long
And
multi-year
that's right.
cases.
They sit there and tell us what they think it's worth, and we sit there and say, okay, what's in the best interest of the town? And we come up with an agreement to prevent a large legal bill on the other side.
Have we lost businesses too? That like if a property goes vacant, does that drop its value, obviously?
Once it's valued at the time of revaluation, the value doesn't change
Okay.
until the next revaluation. every valuation time, I try and get into an agreement. We have an agreement right now with a property owner that had 85% vacancy in his office building, and that if he increases his vacancy, then I get to change his assessment accordingly. And part of that agreement says that he has to tell me when he gets a new tenant, and then I adjust the assessment based on that. So we do our best to minimize this side of the equation.
The personal property could change, though, if the business went out of business, they may not have personal property.
If they leave, then they don't have personal property anymore.
Well, that's the one area we had an increase.
And it is, because the majority of that is a state exemption that they didn't file for, that they're mandated to do so. And, you know, and it's not like I didn't try and I reached out to them, because because now next year when they actually do file, you're gonna see the, you know, unless other businesses make up the difference, you'll see either a flat or a negative on that side. Because $1 million in personal property is a big hurdle to get back.
Are there any more significant pending appeals?
The largest pending appeal out there right now is the Sheridan Hartford South.
And so what is the status of that? Is it scheduled for trial?
We had a pretrial on Thursday afternoon, and it was put off to a later date. We don't have a trial date.
How far apart are the appraisals?
We're about $15 million apart.
Wow.
Well, I know the other side.
Okay.
And they did what they got paid to do,
But if that
the
settles,
appraiser anyway.
if that settles in the middle, so the numbers that we have here for the evaluations, it incorporates the figure that we're currently using, right?
Correct.
So if that were to settle in the middle, then we'd be losing another $7.5 million.
I don't think we'll be in the middle on that one. We'll be more on my side.
I like the confidence.
I'm just,
Being confident.
well, I think the town of Rocky Hill hires people that have better reputations.
Okay, we're going to stop talking about this lawsuit.
Stuart, when does Kelson Road come on with full value? What year?
2034?
When do the residents start paying motor vehicle?
October 1 of 2025. So it'll be July of 26.
So whoever's a
Unless
resident,
they buy a new car after they move in,
so whoever's a resident as of October of this year.
of 2025, yes.
All right, thanks.
Unless they purchase a new car after they move in here.
Okay.
So, you know,
Thank you.
you want.
All right, I found my agenda. So we are back to new business B now. Discussion and possible action resolution, trash collection, trash away, contract extension.
Exciting.
You want me to take that?
Yeah, you start, I'll make them up.
So yes, this was presented at Finance Committee, to just kind of abbreviate what we have. We've had Trash Away as your trash collector since 1982. Presently, there is a contract that goes to 2019 that has two extension options within it. The first extension was in 2019, which we exercised. That one is going to end 6/30 of '25. We're proposing that we exercise the second opportunity to extend that contract. Reason being, they are offering no increase, no cost of living increase on the contract, so it will keep flat from this year into the following. Although the second and third year of this extension will have a cost of living increase incorporated into it. We've also done, I've done some research in neighboring towns to see if we were to go to bid on this particular contract. And we are presently, if we're freezing at this rate, probably at about 17% less than what's going out competitively with this vendor and other opposing vendors. I've kind of researched with a couple of other towns. One thing unique to Rocky Hill is this particular contract is based on a per unit cost. And if we were going to go out to bid, they would be doing what the contracts are going for, which is a per barrel cost. And at this time, we've been having some staff going out and following our trash collector to see, what exactly is happening in Rocky Hill. And we can find, at least so far, at least 10 to 20% of the residents have more than one barrel. So again, if we went to go out and bid this and it was by barrel rather than household, then definitely we could be looking at a large increase for the next year. For those two major reasons, I'd say the recommendation is to renew the extension at no cost, just keeping in mind that in the meantime, we're doing our research, following the trash collector, Highway Public Works, as well as the transfer station staff are going out and they're replacing the large barrels with the small barrels. So we're making the motions to change this so that if this were to end, that we'd be prepared and in a good standing to compete in a bid situation if that's what we chose.
If we went from large barrels to small barrels, would that increase the amount of barrels?
No, well, the goal is, seriously.
Well, no, I'm just,
Oh, yeah.
I use one big barrel, that's it, but if you gave me a small barrel, I might have to go to two.
Perhaps, but the goal is,
Yeah, well, yeah.
again,
I know what the goal, I'm just
the
saying
goal
that,
is
yeah.
that it should be going into the blue recycle bin. Kind of, for example, in this particular contract, to charge for a trash green barrel, basically per unit, and I'm gonna just say roughly is about $7 per unit, versus if you had the recycle barrel, it's $3, so 7 versus 3. So if you were to go out and bid that, we really want to educate people in the town to use the smaller barrel. Don't put the recycle items in there, because ultimately this is going to be a cost-saving measure if you were going to do that you'd be spending
No, I remember
half
this
that.
coming up before, and we,
Correct.
Councilman Sullivan said the same thing. I barely used that one, and I don't even put it out some weeks, but I just don't want to see the people who are using it and aren't learning, if we cut their barrel in half, they're gonna ask for 2, and we get charged for 2 versus 1.
Ray, is this something that you anticipate the Sustainable Rocky Hill Task Force getting involved in terms of educating the public? Because I know we talk about educating folks in recycling, but we don't actually have a
Yeah, that
plan.
would be good. And involved in the education part,
Absolutely.
but not in the contract part.
No.
Education.
Yeah, that would be a perfect utilization of their skills and talents to have them out in the field and
Yeah.
doing some educational programs.
Mona, can you just talk very briefly about the distinction between this contract for collection versus the separate contract we have for disposal?
Yes, I'd like to. So wanted to point that out, that this is the trash collection contract. This is the Trashway who's going out and picking up the barrels. And, we've had a lot of conversation in the past about the disposal, which is Murphy Road, which was the aspect that we were having issues about the grant where they had restrictions. So, and to make sure that we differentiate that this is the extension on the trash collection, not the trash disposal contract. Trash disposal, we've got another year with that one. This being the collection, which would be the extension for the Trashway collection part of it. Is that?
I point
Are
that
you
out
done?
because,
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, we had some concerns, right around the time that we were discussing the deep concepts and trying to reduce volume. And right around that time, we started the contract for trash disposal, which basically was a fixed commitment, how much we have to pay, so there was no financial incentive to reducing volume. And so that was kind of a drag on, on the benefit of pursuing the D program or any other type of reduction program. So and we discussed this, I think when we went over the contract in finance, just emphasizing that the contract before us tonight has nothing to do with that. It only has to do with collection. The issue of disposal will come up a year from now. And if we want to revisit that, if we want to do, create a mechanism there to incentivize us to save, that'll be that contract next year, but that has no bearing on what we're doing tonight.
And I think that's super exciting that it's only a year from now, because if we can start the education process now, we can maybe really make a difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can I ask what,
Just one point of clarification, in the report recommendation section, it says the second extension was exercised July 1st. That's the first extension.
Correct.
And then
Yeah,
the second one is.
That is a typo in there,
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you.
so just so there's no confusion. Thanks.
good. What is CPI? I don't know what that term means.
Oh, it's a consumer price index that they're looking at. I called it a COLA, consumer price index. So they're looking at with the market increases, correct. And for this first year, they are not going to do an increase at all. We're going to go flat rate for where we are. But this particular contract would allow them, if they so choose, to exercise that. So they have no increase,
But they chose not to.
correct,
But the index going forward will be the CPI?
correct,
2 and 3. Yeah.
in the second and the third, yes.
Thank you.
We'll make 'em- So,
I just don't know do you want to add anything?
no, I mean, just that I think they've, obviously Mona's done her homework, and I think this is as good as financial deals we're going to get, as far as our collection goes, so. With that, I'll make a motion the town council approves the contract with Trash Away, the second extension, which would be from July 1st of '25 through June 30th of '28.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just wanted to comment, thank you, Mona, for comparing this to other towns. And that was going to be my main question, but should
do
we
my
put it
homework.
out to bid? But you took care of it. Thank you.
Stole your thunder.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. And moving on to C, discussion possible action, resolution, Rocky Hill Community Farm lease renewals.
If I may, Mayor, I'd recuse myself from this, please.
Yes.
I was hoping you'd take it. Yeah. So as you may recall, when we started with the cleanup of the Straska property, there were approximately 30 acres of tillable farmland that the town council voted on to lease out to local farmers. And there were 3 farmers that responded, Hayes Farm, Gilbert Farm, and Fairweather Acres. Each signed a lease, a 3-year lease initially, which is the initial lease, for each of their respective acreages at a cost of $50 per acre, an annual cost of $50 per acre. In accordance with the lease documents, each farmer contacted me with a request to renew for another 3 years, which is allowable in the lease terms. So that request was brought to the Subcommittee Farmland, Open Space Acquisition and Farmland Preservation Subcommittee for a review and a recommendation to the Town Council. My recommendation they had supported was to renew those leases at keeping the rate at $50 per acre and not escalating it for the 3-year period. And that was also approved and recommended to the Town Council.
Any questions?
I can make a motion that you can comment.
Okay.
So with that, I'd like to make a motion for the town council to approve the lease renewals for additional 3 years for Hayes Farm 1868 LLC, Fairweather Growers LLC, and Gilbert Farm LLC, as authorized in Section 5 of the contract for leasing of farmland at the current annual per acre rate of $50 and subject to all conditions, restrictions, and requirements of the original leases.
Second the motion.
Any discussion?
Just one question. Is there any additional land that's available to lease, or is that the total amount that's tillable is?
Yeah,
being leased?
there's no additional land, there was no additional clearing at the time.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any abstentions? Fran? All right, thank you. We're going to go on to the mayor's report. I'm not going to give a mayor's report tonight because of my, I don't have the voice. But I do want to just recognize the passing of Rebecca Hoyt. I was recently at a church event, and it was brought to my attention that Ms. Hoyt was actually one of the original founders of the Rocky Hill Volunteer Ambulance Association. And so we just, on behalf of the entire town council, want to send our condolences to the family and say how much we appreciated her service. And now the town manager's report.
In your package is my multi-page report, only 2 pages this month, I'm sorry. I'll start off with the 2025 STEEP grant. We were notified last month that this round has come up. The deadline is Thursday, the 20th. Not much time to solicit input from department heads about what they think we should utilize this grant for. Mona and I reviewed what was submitted and talked to Joe Lentini and Steve Sopelak. And we feel that the most prioritized project was to replace the underground fuel tanks at the highway garage. They were installed in 1999, and they have an expected maximum life up to 2029. And we feel that since this up to $1 million grant is available to apply for at this time, why not take a chance, submit an application? And we're thinking this price range will probably be probably north of $700,000, and we could really capitalize on these grant funds if we get approval. In my memo, I indicate that we are not proposing a match. However, after talking to our Director of Finance, she may have found some additional funding that we can come up with a very minimal match to make our application a little more attractive. I think this proposal, it's an environmental cleanup proposal, so I'm thinking it may have good standing. And if we can, come up with some, maybe a $40,000 match, which is well under, it's about, I'm sorry, she'll be fine. We're used to it this time of year. We're considering applying Thursday for the STEEP grant for replacement of those tanks, which are required. I mean, otherwise we wait for 4 years from now, we have no idea if this funding will be available, and we have no idea if we'll be able to afford it at that time. Just a quick, I'm going to kind of move around a bit. Steve Sopelak and Mona and Joe met with a company called Journey Home. It's a company that they collect used furniture that they could utilize to donate to other people in need of furniture to help maybe reduce the bulky waste inventory in town and maybe relieve some of our personnel from some of the duties that requires. So I'm not sure, it's not going to be a big hit, if any, but it's an opportunity to look into. A little bit of commercial development action. That Planning and Zoning Commission, they're reviewing right now a special permit site plan application at the Citgo station. I'm sure you've heard about that application on Main Street and corner of Main and Forest. This small Citgo gas station looking to redevelop into a normal drive-through larger gas station convenience store. There's also a small commercial building approval for Laurel Road. And Kim and the Planning and Zoning Commission continue to work on the plan of conservation and development. Let's see. Gina continues to offer many services to our seniors, tax preparation assistance, as well as training her staff in first aid and CPR. Human Services are working with fire department, boys groups, and veterans assistance programming. And also, they were keynote speakers for the CRPA and the Health District for opioid initiatives, as well as Walk This May. And working with the police department and protocol reporting. She has been challenged with finding space in town hall and the community center, as many of us are, for securing her programming. So we'll continue to try to find nooks and crannies. Tax collector of special note, TaxServe, the contractor that the town hired to pursue the delinquent taxpayers. As of date, they have collected an additional $266,829 in delinquencies. So it's a good start. I believe the total was $2 million and change. Facilities Department, they completed the firehouse roof replacement project. They also completed the firehouse 2 rooftop AC unit that went offline and had to be replaced. And they completed the task list generated by the OSHA inspection that was mentioned earlier in the government house report. Alondra Main has been busy. Alondra Main is our new Economic and Business Development Manager. She outreached to a Connecticut donut shop owner interested in locating in Rocky Hill. So she was trying to get that particular donut shop located in Rocky Hill, which would be very popular, I'm sure. There are 62 units occupied so far at Kelson Row. And she's also working with the Park and Rec Department on a new event called Make Music Day, which I believe is a national program. Her component would be to try to get the businesses involved in this particular event. It's an all-day event. People, I'm not really sure the details, but people gather in various locations and make music, whatever music I guess they want to make. And the idea is to get the businesses involved, to sponsor and advertise for them, and at the same time, that hopefully will help the businesses gain exposure. And also, this would be a good initiation to the arts and culture movement that we have identified in the budget and through various discussions. And that completes my report.
Madam Mayor, may I pose one follow-up question to, well, it's not just one question. Concerning the plan of conservation development, Ray, it's actually 2 questions. Number 1, where are we in the process? And number 2, will the town council have a structured opportunity for input into it before it's a done deal?
Yes, the town council has to actually approve and review and approve the plan of development.
I mean, before it's too far along. I mean, kind of
Yeah.
during the, during the process where it's really being put together, will we have an opportunity for early, assessment of where you are and an opportunity for some input?
Yes, Kim Ritchie is working on it in-house with the commission, like in 2015, 15. She'll solicit input via survey, email, and also public input meetings. I know I worked with the Economic Development Commission several times, with the Planning and Zoning Commission, and with the consultant, and with Kim. And she had done that with all the land use boards and other agencies. She'll be doing that with the Commission on Inclusion and Human Services as well. Are you asking, would she come to this meeting, or would it be more of a workshop setting, or?
Well, whatever it may be, but you know, we kind of hear about it like the citizens do in general, but will there be something formal with us, whether it's a workshop, whether it's a presentation, or just some type of an opportunity for us to have input before, you know, it's getting close to being a finished product?
Yes, I mean, that's a major component of the plan of conservation and development. Having the town council as a body, contribute input to a plan of development, and also individually, you're all residents too, so, you know, you'll have two shots at it at least.
Okay. And my first question was where we are on the process. Like, so can you tell, do we have a target delivery date for the, or adoption date for it?
The deadline delivery date, I believe, is June 2025. All right, 10 years, it's a 10-year plan.
Coming up soon, okay.
It is soon. Kim's been working in-house. I don't know exactly where she is right now, but I will find out. And then I can generate that in my next report.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to the portion of the agenda where we have a motion for executive session.
So with that, I move to go into executive session to discuss evaluation criteria for the town manager in accordance with Connecticut General Statute Section 1-206A with the Director of Human Resources and Legal Compliance.
Second?
Okay, all in favor? Aye.